Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. My name is Cheryl Etheridge. My co host is Wendy Walker, and we're here with the amazing Janay Towns. Some of you guys know her by Nay Breezy, and she's going to be sharing her story and journey living with lupus and other autoimmune diseases with everyone. So, welcome, Janay. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm hanging in there.
Know you've
I'm
had a lot
hanging.
to go on in the last couple. Well, a lot's going on, but definitely within the last couple of months.
Yes. So as you guys know, I've been dealing with lupus now. It's 20 years. February 8th made 20 years. And the last couple of weeks, I just haven't like really been feeling well. I really don't have an appetite. I've been losing weight. Um, I'm fatigued. So I saw my kidney doctor about 2 weeks ago. Um, and as you guys know, I've been dealing with lupus nephritis for 20 years, and my kidneys have just been up and down, up and down. But I will probably say these last couple of years, my kidneys has definitely worsened. Um, So I always knew that eventually I would need to get on a transplant list. However, I did not expect it to be this soon. Um, so from that appointment, because of all of my symptoms and really just not feeling that great, we decided to start the process for dialysis, um, which I will be doing the home dialysis. Um, And then last week, I went to get evaluated to get on the transplant list, which is a whole nother um, journey, um, which I knew it's going to take a lot, but dealing with lupus and get a transplant, um, it's a little complicated.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm a little overwhelmed. But at the same time, I feel a little anxious,
Yeah.
scared. Um, my anxiety has been, heightened. Um, but even with, dealing with lupus for this long,
Mhm.
um, it's just something I think that a lot of lupis really we say we get used to it, but in the back of our minds, we really don't get used to it. Um, because it's just so much that it entails.
Yep.
Um, but I can say that I have a wonderful support team. My family and friends are amazing. My loopies, they're amazing. So I know that, with just surrounding myself with positive people and just trying to stay positive myself, that this is just temporary, it's just a season, and I know that, I'm going to get through it. So yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thank you for sharing that. So you say you were diagnosed 20 years ago. So how old were you then, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 15,
Oh wow.
15 in 10th grade, yes.
Wow. So how do you like what were your symptoms back then that even led them to start testing you for lupus?
So for me, my uh diagnosis story is a little different from the typical loopy story, because typically it takes years, months to get a diagnosis. Um, for me, I started having symptoms the summer of 2003,
Mhm.
and my first initial symptom was feet pain. Um, my feet would just hurt, And when I started school, going back to school, in that September, um, I went to school. I was a dancer. So the high school I went to, we had a dance program. So I was dancing 5 days a week, taking gym class, and then also on the weekends working at McDonald's.
Oh, wow.
So my feet, they would just hurt, like really just hurt.
Mhm.
Um, and at first, I'm just like, okay, it's nothing. But like the pain, it just started coming, and it just got worse. So my mom decided, she was like, you know what, we're going to take you to the foot doctor.
Mhm.
The foot doctor initially was the one who technically diagnosed my lupus,
Mhm.
um, because he took me out of dance and gym for like 3 weeks. And like for those 3 weeks, I didn't have any pain or anything. But then I winded up having pain again, but this time, like the pain just came back intense. So it was a period where it was back and forth to the foot doctor and then going to get blood work and getting x-rays. Um, so this is, through the Christmas break all the way into the new year, January 2004. Um, one particular Sunday, I was getting off of work, and again, my feet was hurting so bad. But my mom told my sisters and I we can go to this teen club because we didn't have school the next day. So me being me, I'm like, you're not leaving me out. So, I went. That night, that whole night, anyone that knows me, I love dancing. Like that's just who I am. I was not dancing at all. Maybe danced one time that whole night. And throughout the night, I could literally feel my feet just throbbing. And by the end of that night, um, I could not walk. Like it was time for the club to let out. And it was me and my two sisters, and we're just making our way to the front door, and we got stopped. So when we stopped, I leaned up against the wall, and that was it. Like I could not move, I couldn't do anything. So they went, got my mom. The mom was like, listen, security guard, I need you to carry her to the car. So that night is when everything went downhill. Um, that particular night, all the way up until February 8th, like my health just went down. I lost a lot of weight. I couldn't eat. Um, it was just bad, and we didn't know what was going on. And the thing, what happened was because I was out of school by this time for like 3 weeks,
Mhm.
my math teacher came to help me get caught up on work. And when she came and she saw me, she's like, "Yeah, we're not like she needs to go to the emergency room."
Mhm.
Um, so we went, and the only thing I remember them saying while I was in the emergency room is she's really, really sick. And she's definitely going to be admitted. And then probably like 2 days after that is when they told me that I had lupus. Um, and they told me it was stage 4 lupus nephritis.
Wow.
And even then, it didn't click. I never heard of lupus. I didn't know what it was. Um, when they told me, I said, "Okay, well, what antibiotic are you gonna give me so I can get rid of this?" And they're like, "Yeah, about that. No, you're gonna have this for the rest of your life." But it took, I would probably say, 3 to 4 months to get the actual diagnosis.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and then looking back, I can say I probably started showing symptoms when I was 13,
Mhm.
not knowing. Because when I was 13, my hair fell out. Um, I mean, just fell out to the point. My mom one day was combing and she looked and she's like, you have two bald spots. And I was just like, what? Um, but yeah, looking back now, I think the symptoms started, yeah, when I was 13.
13.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, at least that foot doctor did not, number one, give up on you, because many times we're dismissed um, when you, or they don't tie the symptoms together, and then you're further along, in the disease. So, well, shout out to the foot doctor. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're probably one of the first ones that said it really kind of, even though you're looking back to say the hair loss and all of that, but with just a foot diagnosis, and how many teenagers go to the doctor and a lot of them dismiss any kind of leg and foot pain. Oh, it's just growing pains, and just send them
Yeah.
away. So at least he was, proactive.
Yeah.
Um, so
And he
yeah.
told me, um, after getting, I think like the first set of tests, he said, what I'm getting ready to tell you guys, I've only seen this one other time in my years of being a foot doctor. And he was like, same exact thing happened to another patient he had. Um, and it was lupus.
Hmm.
Wow.
So, when I came in, he seen everything. He was just like, okay. But he definitely was on it. He was
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Wendy, you want to ask a couple questions before?
Sure. Um, how has your autoimmune disease influenced your relationships with family and friends?
Good question. Um, it has definitely been a roller coaster ride when it comes to relationships in general. Um, I've always been close with my parents and my siblings. My mom, she raised us to be close. We're only like a year and a half apart. So they've always been by my side from day one. Even going through getting diagnosed, they were supportive, but at the same time, because we didn't know what was going on and having sisters, they're like, "Oh, mom, she's faking," and I'm like, "No, there's no faking." But I think for them, they realized something was going on when there was a particular movie coming out that I wanted to go see, and my mom was like, "We'll go to the movies," and I was just out of it. I couldn't really, do anything. And I think at that moment they realized, okay, there's something really going on with her.
Yeah.
Um, but I've never really had like any bad issues when it comes to my siblings or any family members with dealing with my lupus. If anything, they are extremely overprotective of me. Um, my younger sister, who swears she's my oldest sister, she she's like, yeah, because you're my big little sister. Um, but yeah, everyone, even aunts, uncles, cousins, they're extremely overprotective of me. Um, I appreciate it. I'm
Mhm.
extremely grateful for it. There are times where it's a bit overwhelming because you have those family members that, if you're going to a family reunion or event, they're like, okay, are you okay? Well, don't do this. Well, sit down. You can't. And, it's just like, I could still, I could do stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's things like that, that, may be a little overwhelming at times,
Mhm.
but I just know it's coming from a place of love. Um, and I know that they're just only trying to protect me and
Yeah.
be there for me.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as friends go, I've never been one to have a lot of friends. I have, my good couple of friends. I know a lot of people and I have a lot of acquaintances. Um, but when it comes to friends, you know, it's a little tricky. Um, trying to, maintain friendships and going through what we go through.
Mhm.
Um, because you're gonna have people that just won't get it and won't understand.
Yeah.
Um, but I the only thing I had this nurse tell me when I was first diagnosed, actually in the hospital, because she told me she had lupus, and she said, "Listen, with lupus, it goes off your stress. So if you have friends, boyfriends, anyone that's stressing you out or causing you havoc in your life, then cut them off. Like,
Yes.
cause you just don't have time for that."
Mhm.
Um, and I'm legit like that. Like, I will cut people off if they're causing me stress or if it's a lot of drama involved. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes a hard, and I can only imagine with you being a teenager getting the diagnosis. I think a lot of us, when we're diagnosed as an adult, it's kind of like, well, hopefully our friends are a little bit more mature to really understand. But
Right.
it is frustrating to have to justify even the days that you feel up to doing things, and
Mhm.
people look at you funny, but not understanding we run off adrenaline most of the time, and once
Right.
we're done with whatever the event or appointment, we crash, and they don't see that. And it is kind of frustrating because, if you're not stuck in bed or can barely walk or on oxygen, or they wouldn't know what's behind,
Right.
what they see or what's inside. So, what other autoimmune diseases do you have, or do you have any other than lupus?
Yes. And that's another thing with being diagnosed with lupus. When they diagnose you, they don't tell you about the underlying illnesses. It's pretty much, "Hi, Miss Towns, you have lupus." They may give you a pamphlet and then that's it. So with having, lupus, I also suffer with fibromyalgia,
Mhm.
rheumatoid arthritis. I was recently diagnosed with Graves' disease, along with a hyperactive thyroid. Um, I also have a vascular necrosis of my knees and my right hip, and I'm almost pretty sure I have it in my left shoulder. Um, anxiety, depression, sleep apnea, um, Sjogren's. I'm almost pretty sure I'm missing something, but those are like the main things. And I
Yeah,
know some people are like, "Well, what are you missing?" Because that's a
it's
lot.
a lot.
It is, but um, those are the underlying illnesses that comes with having lupus,
Mhm.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
Right.
that the doctors don't warn us about.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wendy, you want to ask your next one? While she's pulling her question up, I want to say hello to our YouTube channel that's asking questions. We appreciate it.
Oh well. Um, what kind of support do you find most helpful from those around you?
For me, just um the I would probably say just being there.
Yeah.
Um and that can be a phone call, a text message, just showing me that, you care.
Right.
Um doesn't necessarily, have to be a everyday
Mm-hmm.
thing, but text message, a phone call, just letting me know that you care goes a long way with me. Um, and I listen to a lot of music that helps me, get through my days. I journal. I read. Um, and then I like spending time by myself. Spending time by myself, it really, helps me to refocus if I'm, going through a bad day. And you know, just spending that time alone. For me, it helps ground me.
Got it. So one of the YouTube subscriber, I hope I'm not butchering this. I don't know if it's a Jahar or AJHR. Sorry. He asked or she asked, what symptoms keep you up at night, or are you that you're struggling with at night times? Because I guess sometimes at night things are seems to be a lot worse.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, the number one symptom that I deal with at night is insomnia. Insomnia, and then pain, of course. My pain is definitely, I can't say it's heightened at nighttime because it's really like a constant thing. But I will say a lot of times I am awaking out of my sleep because of the intense pain. Especially if it's raining outside or if it's like really, really cold. Um, yeah, it's definitely waking me up out my sleep. And then the other thing is nausea. The nausea for me is a constant thing. Um, to the point where it again, that wakes me up out my sleep every morning between the hours of like 5 and 6 in the morning. I'm awakened either by having to use the bathroom or being extremely nauseous. Those are like the two symptoms that I deal with that night that is really annoying. Even with taking sleep medicine.
Mhm.
Um it's still hard for me to sleep at night. Now during the day, I don't have an issue with going to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, at nighttime it's difficult.
Got it. Thank you, Avril, for that question on YouTube. She put her name in the chat. So I know you mentioned the nausea. So do you have gastroparesis that a lot of us get? Have they ever?
I don't have gastroparesis. But I just think well, I know a lot of the nausea that I'm experiencing now is because of my kidneys
Got it.
and the whole kidney failure thing. That's probably the number one reason why I've just been so extremely nauseous.
So have you made any lifestyle changes to help manage your lupus outside of removing people that could cause stress or in your life?
So honestly, I struggle with lifestyle changes, and that's just me being honest. Being as though I'm in this process of, starting dialysis, getting on a transplant list, I do know that I have to change a lot of the things that I eat. I have to cut back on a lot of junk food. So that is something that I've been working on. It it's not, I don't want to say like it's extremely hard. Um but it's just, one of those things where it's just like, man, I can't eat this, or you
Mhm.
know what, I'm gonna eat it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that I have to make the changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Diet changes are hard. I know, um, just speaking for myself, like I don't know, my body just craves sugar. And
Yeah.
then the days that I'm in a flare, yes, I would love to have a home cooked meal, but sometimes just going through a drive-through just so you can eat to take the medicine that you have to is a lot, your option.
Yeah.
And so it is a struggle, even if you had all healthy stuff. Like, I don't think some people understand just because it's there, the time that it takes for you to stand up to do everything that you have to do. Um, and then by the time you're done, you're so wiped out, you just almost skip eating because it's just so
Exactly.
time consuming. So I know a
Yeah.
lot of people, they harp on us. So it's like, well, you should change this. And I was like, I could be a raw vegan right now and I'm still gonna have lupus.
Mhm.
Granted, yes, if we're, eating too much processed or too much sugar, it makes your flares 10 times worse and last longer, but it doesn't go away. So yeah, I totally get that struggle.
Yeah.
So, what do you kind of do? What do you navigate when you're in a bad flare? How do you handle those difficult days, especially when you have something on your calendar that you can't, because we cancel a lot because it's like, hey, I'm not feeling good. But for those days, like leading up, like if you're in a flare that night, your doctor's saying take your pain meds or whatever around the clock, like how do you push through when you do have to, handle something in the next day?
Um, it's difficult. Um, I will say what I started doing some years back, depending on depending on what it is I have to do, if it's an event or something, and depending on the importance of the event, um, if I know I have an appointment event that I want to go to, let's just say a week from now, that means I have to put myself on bed rest a week prior.
Okay.
Um, and even with doing that, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not going to still have pain and, go to the event. But for me, I know that even just getting to the event,
Mhm.
I I have to put myself on bed rest. Because it takes a lot to get ready and then, get yourself to the event. It's definitely a challenge at times. I and like you mentioned, we tend to cancel a lot of plans, and I definitely cancel a lot. I recently had a birthday get together to attend, and they invited me probably like 3 weeks before the actual event. So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll go." The week of the event, I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, but I'll just see how I feel the day of the event." Well, the day before the event, it was raining,
Mm.
and I was in so much pain. So, the day of the event, well, I knew the day before. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna make this event." Like, because for one, it was raining, it was cold. Yeah, it was just no way I was gonna make the event. Um, so I couldn't go, and I felt bad.
Mhm.
But the person who invited me, I thanked her because I'm like, "Listen, you still invited me."
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that because there are instances where, if you have, friends or acquaintances, some of them, they may not invite you and then be like, "Oh, well, you're not gonna come anyway." And it's just like you don't know.
Yeah.
You can't assume. Um, but it is definitely something that, I struggle with on a day-to-day basis, even with planning anything,
Yeah.
because you just never know what's gonna happen, how you're gonna feel. And I'm the type of person, if I don't feel well, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm not going to force myself to go.
Yeah.
Um, I used to do that, in my 20s where I would be like, yeah, I don't feel like going, but I will go
Hmm.
and then pay the consequences later.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, if I'm not feeling up to it, then yeah, I'm not gonna put myself in that situation.
Yeah. I know, as warriors, we can be stubborn. I can speak for myself as far as I can volunteer now, like once getting diagnosed and can't work anymore. But when I try to
Mhm.
do volunteer stuff, it's kind of like behind the scenes that I don't physically necessarily have to go to an event. Um, but even that's a struggle because my husband fusses. He's like, "You're doing too much. You're doing too much." But it's like I get so angry. I don't know if you guys can relate. It's just like this disease is taking so much.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
rather like I know I'm gonna like how you said you're gonna pay the consequences just by doing it,
Right.
but it's just a hard pill to swallow because I'm just like I still want to do something. I'm just tired of being stuck at home, tired of being in the bed all the time.
right.
And it's kind of like, well, I'm gonna hurt if I'm in the bed and I'm gonna hurt if I'm up. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
like I don't like how it's hard to stay motivated some days. So just hearing that from you, but now, the older you've gotten, you're like, you know what, it is what it is. I'm just I'm not gonna go. So
Yeah, yeah. And
what
I
do you
mean, I'll say it took me a while to get to the point of saying, well, I can't go because of health reasons. Like, because I literally would not say no to people.
Mhm.
Right.
But, yeah, now I'm just like, listen, I can't promise you anything.
Yeah,
Still
Right.
invite me, but I can't promise you anything.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally get it. What state are you in?
I live in New Jersey.
Oh
So
wow.
I am, I would say 30 minutes from
Okay.
Philadelphia, and I'm literally like 10 minutes from Delaware.
Oh wow. Okay. I went to New Jersey when I went to New York last year.
Oh,
Um
okay, yeah.
yeah, how do you deal with traveling? Like I know you don't get to go a lot of places, but like what do you do? I know you do the week before resting to prepare for something, but is there anything different that you do as a lupus warrior when you're getting ready to like leave home for a couple of days?
Um, Not necessarily. I will say I did a lot of traveling last year, and it was probably like my second, third time traveling by plane. Um, the first 2 times I traveled by plane, I did not use a wheelchair, and I definitely felt it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of walking. Like, I was just like, "Janae, yeah, we're not doing this again." Um, but th I would say when the last 2 times, I wanna say it was a couple months ago, um, I got a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I definitely got a wheelchair, so that I didn't have to do all that walking in the airport, and again, it's weird because when I do travel, if I'm going out of state or anything like that, I notice that I don't really eat a lot. My appetite isn't the greatest. Um, so I find myself really not eating, which
Mhm.
is crazy to me. Um, but it's just one of those things where, I might take a bite or something and I'm fine. But I do limit, I definitely limit how much I'm walking, the type of shoes I'm wearing, um, and just, seeing what it is. I can do to help, get to the destination with not being in so much pain.
Mhm.
Um, because for me, my thing is the joint pain, my feet and my joint pain. Um,
Okay.
and like now my feet have been doing I don't know what's going on. They've done x-rays. They said there's nothing wrong with my feet, but the way they hurt is like on a whole nother level to the point there's times where I just don't get out the bed. So I've been dealing with that and it makes it, difficult, just trying to get up and do things when your feet hurt. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I
Yeah.
do plan ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Wendy, do you have any other questions?
Um, hold on, let me think. Wait a minute. I just had, I'm sorry.
Good
Is
old brain fog.
do you find anything that you eat makes it worse?
Uh,
Like 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 the starches or the sugar or a certain kind of meat or anything like that? Is there one thing that might make it worse for you?
I would. It's probably all the bad stuff I eat. um, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
the sugars. I used to love Pepsi. Like Pepsi is
Mm,
just my go-to. However, I had to stop drinking Pepsi. I have not had a Pepsi in probably like a year and a half. Um, so when it comes to like the dark sodas, I don't
right,
really drink the dark sodas. And now I shouldn't be drinking no sodas at all. But if I do drink a soda, it's either a ginger ale or a Sprite. I don't really eat a lot of dairy.
right,
Um, I'm more of a I'm a meat eater. I'm a meat person, and I've been doing a lot of research on, diets and stuff like that. And I've really been trying to cut out a lot of red meat and
Mhm.
just sticking to like chicken and fish.
right,
Um, but yeah, it's probably all the bad stuff I'm eating that's probably making me feel 10
right,
times
You
worse.
know, they always say like, the nightshade vegetables and da da da. Da. Like I've never had an issue with any vegetable, not with garlic and the stuff they
right.
try to tell us to
Yeah.
stay away from. I think like red. I noticed red dye items
Yes,
are horrible. And it took me a
Yeah.
minute to figure it out. Like it's just not a good combo, of course, but it was bad foods. It was like a red soda or red candy, but
Yeah.
right,
it was like 10 times worse
right,
Yeah.
than a
Like
normal.
now there are certain foods that um I'm learning with going through this whole dialysis process that I can't eat.
hmm,
Um so it doesn't really make my grocery shopping difficult, no. But now, with going grocery shopping and looking at labels and stuff like that, like I have to pay attention to the labels, checking the sodium, the potassium, the phosphorus. I do follow a low sodium diet. Um, and that was even before all of this uh
right.
kidney stuff. Following a no sodium diet. But yeah, it's just like now I know one of the things that I can't eat often, which I love, are potatoes.
Mhm.
The potatoes, they said orange juice,
Right.
um, I think she also said like spinach, and I'm just like, okay. So
Wow.
yeah, and the good thing with going through this journey with, starting dialysis and getting on the transplant list is I get a dietitian.
Oh,
Um, so that is the good thing. So when I do meet with them, I'm sure, they'll be able to tell me more foods and fruits and vegetables that I can, incorporate into my diet, cuz I love fruits and vegetables. I do eat my fruits and vegetables. Um but it's just like now having to, read the labels and really see what I'm putting in my body, and because of, the kidneys and stuff like that.
Another question in the chat. Are there any maintenance medications you feel help or make you feel worse?
oh wow.
I'm gonna
Like,
be honest, the prednisone is the devil.
It is.
yes.
Prednisone is the devil.
It is.
We have a love-hate relationship. And here's the thing. I've been on prednisone for 20 years,
Mhm.
and you're not supposed to be on it for that long.
Right.
I did not know that. And the issue is because I've been on it for so long. Um, Whenever I meet with my rheumatologist, our main goal is to try to decrease the dose. My dose is 30 milligrams. And it's been 30 milligrams probably for like a good 10 years. Um, Whenever I try to decrease the dose, my lupus is like, yeah, no, we're not having it.
Yep.
So it makes it so difficult, trying to decrease the dose, because for some reason my lupus is like, yeah, no, we need the full 30 milligrams.
Hmm.
Um, and because I've been on it for that long, it caused the avascular necrosis in the knees and my hips, which I've had my left hip replaced and my right shoulder replaced. And it also caused me to lose all of my teeth to where now I wear both top and bottom dentures. Um, so and let's not forget the weight gain.
Right.
Um, because it's been a roller coaster. Um, think my highest weight was 200 pounds, and that was just straight from the prednisone. Um, so yeah, we have a love-hate relationship. Um, but it's one of those medications where it does help.
Yeah.
It helps, but the side effects are horrible.
Horrible. Yeah.
Horrible. That might be the only, like,
One that
maintenance.
helps, but makes you worse.
Yeah, because all medications, they all have symptoms.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not symptoms, side effects.
Side effects. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, prednisone is definitely the one with the worst side effects. And I
Another.
would
Yeah.
probably say those side effects are even worse than the chemo side effects.
Yeah. I don't think people really realize that. A lot of people, when you say steroids, they're like, "Oh yeah, you eat a lot," just like you have no clue. It's more than just being hungry.
Right.
One more question. It's in the chat. How is your ER experience? Most doctors and nurses, because she said most doctors and nurses are so clueless. So take that away.
So I'm laughing because if you know, you know. Um, I hate going to the emergency room. I literally hate going to the emergency room, and reason being, again, like she said, they don't know how to treat
Nope.
Mhm.
lupus. Um, there are times where I will be in so much pain, like in tears and pain balled up. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to go to the emergency room. And the reason being, because people will ask me all the time, just go to the emergency room. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And a lot of people won't get it. But the reason why a lot of us don't like going to the emergency room is because, for one, they don't know how to treat lupus patients. That's probably like the number one thing. And for two, they look at us as we're drug addicts.
Mhm.
And that's just being honest.
Right.
And they judge us before even looking at, our records. They automatically judge us. And it's just annoying having to go through that each and every time you go to the emergency room. One particular time I went to the emergency room, I think it was a kidney infection, something with the kidneys. They admitted me. And I normally take oxycodone for pain. Like that is my go-to for pain. It helps when I'm at home. I have no issues with it. I've been on it for years. However, when I do go to the hospital, um, which to me, I think it's common sense, but some people be like, oh, I don't know. But if I'm going to the emergency room and I'm telling you I'm in pain and I'm telling you that my pain medicine at home is no longer working, why would you continue to give me the same dose
Right.
that I take at home?
Right.
So a lot of times when I am in the hospital, they will add another pain medicine on with my already dose of pain medicine. Well, this particular time, the doctor was just not trying to do that. And it got to the point where I'm just like, sir, I'm in like I'm in pain. And he's
Yeah.
just like, no, we're just gonna give you your regular payment. So I'm just like, okay. Next thing I know, I have like two therapists coming into my room and they're like, we're from the drug something
Yeah.
people. Basically, he called those people on me, I guess telling them that I abuse the pain medicine.
Wow.
And it pissed me off so bad. I'm just like, are you kidding me? So I'm talking to them, I'm explaining the situation to them, and they're like, man, we're just so sorry, we'll, disregard this or whatever. And I had that doctor off my case
Yeah.
Right.
because it's just like, really? But it's things like that, a lot of us go through when
Right.
going to the emergency room. Um, and instead of them reading our records
Right.
and, looking and saying, okay, this person, oh, she comes here often, she has this, that. They don't do that. They
Mm-hmm.
automatically assume that, we're there for pain medicine. And
Right.
it's just like a lot of us rather just deal with the pain
Mhm.
Yeah.
and, just deal with it. But what I also do now is if I know I have to go to the emergency room, I will call my doctor
Mhm.
and let her and she'll call the emergency room because they can do that.
Yeah.
And they will, let them know, listen, I have a patient coming, this, that, the third. There's been even times where she orders specific tests for them to take because in an emergency room, they're not doing the
Yeah.
full lupus workup blood
Yes.
test. They're just doing the basic blood test they give everybody. But yeah, it's to that point, I don't have a problem calling my doctor
Right.
Mhm.
and saying, listen,
Yeah.
let them know I'm coming. Because yeah, it's just the hassle of having to, go through that. We already go through so much on a daily. And a lot of times, when we go to the emergency room, it's because where the pain has become unbearable.
Right.
Correct.
So, when the pain becomes unbearable, we would
Yeah.
think, going to the emergency room would, help.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, it's just something
Yeah.
a lot of autoimmune illness patients have to deal with.
And I
Right.
think them treating us like that, I think that's what honestly makes our health a lot worse because we do sit at home and it is something that's serious. And by the time, we can't take it, then they're like, well, why didn't you come in sooner? And not understanding that oral medication is one thing, but sometimes when you're in so much pain, IV medication, even though it could be like a shorter span, but it does get you over that hump.
Right.
More manageable. So I totally understand. So before we end this live, we always ask like, what is some advice you would give that person that is, just being diagnosed, especially a teenager, because you've walked that journey as a teen to an adult. So what advice would you give them?
I always tell newly diagnosed lupus and even, lupus in general, you're not alone. You're not alone. Um, for me, sharing my story and being transparent helped me, you know, it just helped me to understand everything that I've been through. It took me a good 10 to 12 years to get to that point. Um, but once you get to that point, that's when you realize you're not alone. When I was diagnosed, social media was just starting out. Um, so for a good like 5 years, I didn't really have the advantage of Facebook or, talking to other loopies and stuff like that, especially at that young age.
Yeah.
But now we live in a world where there's so many different social media platforms. And there's so many different lupus foundations that, you can reach out, get different resources and get help. So definitely, especially if you're newly diagnosed, I would definitely recommend speaking with um, a loopy mentor, someone that can help you along the way, because it's going to there's going to be times where you, you're going to want to talk to another loopy and not necessarily talk to like a family member or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, even though our families and friends, they love us and they care, but it's just that thing in the back of our heads where it's just like, I know they mean good, but they just don't get it.
Mhm.
Um, so I definitely recommend, linking up with another loopy, just someone that you can talk to if you have questions or anything like that, because going through lupus, it it's a roller coaster. It's
Right.
one of those things. It's you're gonna have your ups, you're gonna have your downs, um, and yeah, it's just one of those things. You definitely need to have a mentor,
Right.
a mentor, and I'm big on you know share my story and helping other loopies. Because just by, sharing my story, I know that I'm helping someone.
Well, thank
So definitely know you're not alone.
Mhm.
And yeah, if anyone ever needs, you know, someone to talk to, someone to vent, whatever, Lupus Unite is always open. We do have mentor services. Um, and yeah, just send us a message and we'll get back to you, because having that mentor is extremely important.
Yep.
Right. So it's Lupus Unite, is your nonprofit and your Facebook and your Instagram name also, correct?
Correct. And our website is www.lupusunite.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Janay, for sharing your story. I hope it inspires other warriors and those not living with a chronic illness or autoimmune, that it sheds a light on the journey that we go through from, day to day. And until we do our next one, you guys have a good night.
Good night.
Bye bye.
Thank you
Bye.
for having me.
You're
Have
welcome. Thank you for doing it.
No problem.